reign of Solomon, as described in the Bible, is denied point blank by all secular historians. Liberals who claim to be Christians deny most of what the scriptures say. It says very clearly that silver was as common as stones. More important than that were the number of trees and wild creatures that were brought to Palestine from all over the world. Now, the average liberal, and unfortunately many people who claim to be conservatives, look at the reign of Solomon and think of that as bringing together maybe things from Egypt or Babylonia. They ignore these ships of Tyre, the navigational techniques that the Phoenicians had developed at that time, and gathering these wonderful trees from all over the earth. It's far more likely that these trees were gathered from India, the Spice Islands, Australia, Indonesia, China, that wonderful things were brought even from the Americas, and that no country on earth had ever seen such a collection of fruits, nuts, gums, spices, foods, grains as Solomon was able to enjoy. At the death of Solomon, his son Rehoboam came to the throne, and it's a testimony both of great folly and how great folly can be avoided. The counselors to Solomon gave Rehoboam some very simple advice. Solomon achieved the great wealth of the nation of Israel by heavy taxation. The people were in rebellion, but they were waiting for the death of Solomon. Just because you have something doesn't mean you can't lose it. Wisdom in this sense was to listen to the older men and be content with what he had. Reduction in taxation would not have meant a reduction in his lifestyle or a reduction in the status of the nation of Israel. It would simply mean that he would not be able to achieve greater things than his father Solomon. How much we are like Rehoboam and wanting to do more than the Lord wants us to do, ignoring the Lord's will, ignoring the principles of God's Word to satisfy our selfish lusts. After the wealth and greatness of Solomon, Rehoboam chose to ignore the Lord even further, as Solomon had been departing from the Lord all of his life. He caused the rebellion of the northern tribes, and we see the divided kingdom. The northern kingdom became very powerful in their own right. In fact, during the reign of Jeroboam II, an honest observer might have had difficulty determining whether this nation of Israel or the Assyrians would be the next world power. However, by rebelling further against the Lord, the northern kingdom went into captivity to the Assyrians in 722 BC. The southern kingdom at that time saw Hezekiah as the king only keep Jerusalem and lose all the rest of the lands to the invading armies from Assyria. Isaiah the prophet prophesied this time. Hezekiah had a son, Manasseh, who became the most wicked king of either Israel or Judah, which led to the destruction of the nation of Judah, and they finally went into captivity to the Babylonians. Rather than looking at the many trials, the sins, the triumphs of the divided monarchy, we come quickly to the period of the major prophets. The first major prophet is Isaiah, and he comes to the forefront in the year that King Uzziah died. He prophesies primarily during the reign of Hezekiah. Now that does not mean he did not prophesy prior to that, he did. And he has some very important major prophecies prior to that. Yet God spoke primarily to Isaiah after Hezekiah rose to the throne. He was a nobleman. The scriptures do not say that he had wealth, but nobility frequently went with wealth. And we know that he saw the northern tribes go into captivity in 722 to the nation of Assyria. How very sad when 100 years earlier the nation of Assyria was only equal to the northern kingdom in military strength and power. How rapidly these people declined because they left the Lord their God and went their own way.